Machu Picchu was abandoned, suddenly, completely, by an entire civilization who left behind perfect stone temples, intricate terraces, and no explanation for why they walked away from one of the greatest architectural achievements in human history. This is the lost city in the clouds, built on a mountain ridge so remote that it remained hidden for 400 years. And today, I'm revealing why the Inca fled this paradise, why tourists are now destroying what centuries couldn't, and the disturbing discovery that suggests they might have been running from something. Machu Picchu sits 7,900 feet above sea level in the Peruvian Andes, perched on a narrow ridge between two mountain peaks with 1,000-foot drops on either side. Today, you'll discover what happened in the 1500s when the Inca suddenly evacuated this city, why modern archaeologists believe something terrible drove them out, and how mass tourism is accelerating the destruction of ruins that survived untouched for centuries. July 24th, 1532. A runner arrives in Machu Picchu, bringing news that changes everything. Spanish conquistadors have landed on the coast. They've captured the Inca emperor Atahualpa. The empire is collapsing. And the residents of Machu Picchu, the sacred royal estate built for Emperor Pachacuti less than a century earlier, face an impossible choice: stay and risk Spanish discovery, or abandon their city and disappear into the mountains. You're one of approximately 750 residents living in Machu Picchu. Your entire world exists on this mountain ridge. Below you, the Urubamba River carves through the valley floor over 1,000 feet down. Above you, Huayna Picchu Mountain rises like a giant's tooth into the clouds. Your city is a masterpiece. Stone blocks fitted so precisely you can't slide a knife blade between them. Agricultural terraces that cascade down the mountainside, feeding the entire population. Temples aligned perfectly with the sun during solstices. But none of that matters now. The Spanish are coming. And Machu Picchu, for all its beauty and engineering genius, has a fatal flaw. There's only one way in. The Inca Trail, a narrow stone path carved into cliffsides, winding through mountain passes, crossing rope bridges over gorges. It's a natural fortress that protected the city from invaders. But it's also a trap. If the Spanish find the trail, everyone inside is cornered. The evacuation begins within days. Families pack what they can carry. Gold artifacts are buried or thrown into the river below. The sacred temples are sealed. Agricultural tools are left in the terraces. Pottery sits abandoned in homes. And then, everyone leaves. 750 people vanish into the Andes, taking different routes, scattering across the empire, ensuring that knowledge of Machu Picchu's location dies with them. The Spanish never find it. For 400 years, Machu Picchu sits empty on its mountain ridge, hidden by jungle growth, known only to local farmers who occasionally graze llamas on the ancient terraces, but don't speak of it to outsiders. The Spanish conquest documents mention dozens of Inca cities. Machu Picchu isn't on the list. It became what every Inca hoped it would be: invisible. But here's where the story gets disturbing. Modern archaeologists excavating Machu Picchu have found evidence that contradicts the organized evacuation theory. In some buildings, they've discovered bodies. Not burial sites, bodies, left where they fell. Skeletons showing signs of malnutrition and disease. And chemical analysis of bones suggests something even worse: plague. The Inca had no immunity to European diseases. Smallpox and measles spread faster than the Spanish armies, carried by indigenous traders and runners who had contact with coastal settlements. It's possible the disease reached Machu Picchu before the Spanish did. That the evacuation wasn't orderly, but desperate. That people weren't fleeing invaders, but sickness that was killing them faster than they could bury the dead. Archaeological teams have also found evidence of fire damage in certain structures, burn marks on walls that suggest deliberate destruction rather than accident. Why would the Inca burn parts of their own city? One theory is that they were trying to purify spaces where plague victims had died. Another suggests they were destroying anything that might guide the Spanish to other Inca settlements. The truth is, we don't know, and that uncertainty makes the abandonment even more haunting. Would you abandon paradise if staying meant watching your family die from a disease you couldn't understand or fight? The evidence gets stranger the deeper archaeologists dig. In the Temple of the Sun, they found offerings left behind, pottery filled with food, textiles, even precious metals. These weren't items people would abandon if they planned to return. They were farewell gifts to the gods, suggesting the residents knew they were leaving forever. But if they knew that, if this was planned, why leave bodies unburied? Why leave so much evidence of chaos? Some researchers believe there were two evacuations. The first, organized and deliberate, when news of the Spanish conquest arrived. The second, desperate and panicked, when disease struck the remaining caretakers who stayed behind to maintain the sacred sites. This would explain both the careful sealing of temples and the bodies left in residential areas. It would explain why some parts of the city look methodically abandoned, while others suggest people fled in terror. In 1911, American explorer Hiram Bingham arrived at Machu Picchu guided by local farmers. He wasn't the first outsider to see the ruins, but he was the first to tell the world. His photographs and descriptions made Machu Picchu famous overnight. What the Inca had hidden for centuries was suddenly the most sought-after archaeological site in South America. Today, over 1.5 million tourists visit Machu Picchu annually. That's more than 4,000 people per day, walking on stone paths built for a population of 750. The wear is catastrophic. Steps are eroding. Walls are crumbling. The Peruvian government has implemented strict limits. Only 2,500 visitors allowed per day. Mandatory guided tours. Timed entry slots. But it's not enough. The real damage is invisible. The mountain itself is unstable. Machu Picchu sits on a geological fault line in a region prone to landslides and earthquakes. Heavy rainfall saturates the terraces, adding weight to already stressed foundations. And every footstep, every tourist climbing the ancient stairs, every vibration from the buses that drive the switchback road up the mountain weakens the structure a little more. There's no modern infrastructure inside the ruins. No bathrooms, no food vendors, no water sources. Everything is imported daily, and waste is exported. The logistics of maintaining a World Heritage Site on a mountain ridge accessible only by train or a 4-day hike are staggering. Peru spends millions annually on preservation, and it's still not enough to counter the damage from mass tourism and natural erosion. The Inca built Machu Picchu to last forever, using techniques we still don't fully understand. The stones are cut and fitted without mortar so precisely that they move during earthquakes without collapsing, absorbing shocks that would destroy modern buildings. The drainage system, designed 500 years ago, still functions perfectly, channeling rainwater away from foundations. But the Inca never planned for millions of people walking through their sacred city, touching their walls, breathing moisture into their temples. Archaeologists estimate that at current rates of wear and tourism pressure, significant structural damage to Machu Picchu is inevitable within the next 50 years, unless drastic changes are made. Some preservation experts argue the site should be closed to tourists entirely, accessible only through virtual reality. Others propose a lottery system where only a few hundred people per year win the chance to visit. But closing Machu Picchu would devastate the local economy. The nearby town of Aguas Calientes exists solely because of tourism. Thousands of Peruvians depend on those daily visitors for their livelihoods. Guides, porters, hotel workers, restaurant owners, train operators, they're all part of an economic ecosystem built around the ruins. Shutting down access would protect the stones, but destroy the communities that have grown around them. Here's the final twist that makes this tragedy even more profound. The Inca who evacuated Machu Picchu in the 1500s succeeded in protecting it from the Spanish. They hid it so well that it survived centuries untouched by conquest, colonization, and exploitation. The city that escaped the conquistadors is now being destroyed by something the Inca could never have imagined. Tourists armed with cameras and good intentions. The lost city that was found is being lost again. Not to time or nature, but to our collective desire to witness its beauty in person. The Inca walked away to save their sacred city from invaders. We walk toward it. And in doing so, we're finishing what the Spanish couldn't start. Machu Picchu stands on its mountain ridge, more fragile than it's ever been, waiting to see if we have the wisdom to save it by staying away. And that's a question we still haven't answered.